if someone has an interest, or if you have a desire to come to Russia as a tourist, in Russia, they don't extend tourist visa. When you come with tourist visa and your visa gets expired, since you're supposed to stay legal in the country, what do you do with an expired tourist visa? My advice to someone who comes here as a tourist, particularly from Cameroon, if you come here as a tourist, the first advice I have for you is, before your tourist visa gets expired, I would like to tell you that you will try by every effort that you have to put every effort to contact the immigration service in Russia. Or if you cannot get in contact with the immigration service in Russia, or in Moscow particularly, or in any city you find yourself in Russia, before contacting the immigration services in Russia, you contact the UN office, United Nations. You contact the UN office, and when you contact the UN office will guide you on what to do. What am I talking about? I'm talking about seeking asylum as a Cameroonian in Russia. So it is very possible to seek asylum in Russia if your story that you present, or your reason you present to them for seeking asylum, is very convincing, because your story is supposed to be very convincing for them to grant you an asylum in Russia. So even before coming, it will do you much good if you gathered some information or some proofs back from Cameroon before coming to Russia, because those information or those proofs, they are going to help you in order to seek asylum in Russia. So why do I talk about Cameroon and I talk about asylum? Because in Cameroon presently there is a crisis going on in Cameroon, the Anglophone crisis. And in the Anglophone crisis, when you come here, you give them a convincing reason how you have been affected by the crisis in Cameroon. And since you have been affected by the crisis in Cameroon, you have to express it to them and make them to see that actually you have been affected by the crisis in Cameroon. And they require proof, and not only proof, and the proof that you present to them is supposed to be convincing. You have to convince them, because you undergo an interview session, and in that interview session they are going to ask you various questions about the Anglophone crisis and about your personal life and how far have you been affected by it, because it is on the basis on what you present to them that they are going to grant you the asylum. So even in the UN office, which I spoke about, when you go to the UN office will help you, and to an extent they will even provide you a lawyer who will follow up your case with you at the level of the immigration. So, and the UN office also does not only provide you with a lawyer, but they provide you with food and clothing. So in the UN office, you go there, you explain your story to the UN office, they will help you to apply to the immigration service in Russia to apply for the asylum. So when the UN office will help you to apply, to commence the process of asylum to apply, and when they help you, you can pick it up from there. And they can only help you also depending on the information you present to them, which has to be very convincing. So at the level of the first interview session you are going to have in the immigration office, after that interview session, if your story was very convincing and was a very good story, they will issue you a 3-month document of asylum. And that 3-month asylum document they are going to issue to you, you are going to use it for that length of 3 months, after which you will come back again after that 3 months, because that 3 months is for them to study your case that you have presented to them, and they will observe it carefully and study it vis-a-vis the crisis in Cameroon. And when they study your case very well, after that 3 months, they are going to issue you a 1-year asylum document, which you can use it. But if you want to go to seek an asylum when your visa is expired as a tourist, you will start by paying a penalty. It is not only penalty, but it is in a complicated state already because your visa is expired already. So that is why I advise that you're supposed to contact the immigration service in Russia or the UN office while your visa is still valid. And I assure you, with a very convincing story, you are going to have your asylum document in Russia. Thank you very much.